to work with Arthur, Father Arthur, who had the same, really had the same thinking that the Jesuits and Xavier had something to share. We have to share the secret of Xavier to the rest of Chuk, because Chuk needs it. And so that's really what I meant. It was there that I began to think that I need to be in education, and I need to get I need to get more training in how to manage education. So I went off after I left the Jesuits. I went on and got a master's in educational administration. And part of that was really the inspiration from students back at Xavier, the teachers who were there, and the great administrators, and just Xavier taught me what a good school ought to be, and what good teachers ought to do, and what great students are capable to do. So that's kind of the story of how Xavier inspired me to be an educator. That's what I did.
So speaking about Xavier High School, the next question is in regards to your two kids, and congratulate on that.
Thank you.
And would you consider sending your kids to Xavier or any other school in Micronesia?
Sadly, I would consider sending my kids to Xavier if I was living in Micronesia. And truly, I say sadly, because I believe in public education, and I believe that we need to improve the public schools in Chuk, first and foremost, so that we don't rely on sending students to private schools only, because they can't get a good education in public school. And so I say sadly, because on one hand, I don't want, if I was living in Micronesia, I would want the best education for my kids. But on the other hand, my heart also gets torn because the pull for me passionately is about improving public education there. So yes, of course, I would do whatever it takes to give my students a chance. But it's also sad because when you think about it, right now in Chuk, Xavier provides the best. And so I would rather see the public schools advance to become more like Xavier than for us to escape and take our kids to Xavier and forget about that. And that's a sad story for all of us from Chuk who care about that stuff. So.
Thank you. Moving on to the next question. We know that you're all founded, in education. As an educator, is there a certain difference in your teaching styles that you employ between Micronesian students and students in the USA?
Yes, of course. There are. Not just between, the teaching style and, the teaching kids in Micronesia and students in the U.S. Yes, I mean, they're basically two different environments, right? Yeah. Micronesia has really limited resources for teachers, and the U.S. has incredible resources at teachers' disposal. And so the teaching style is going to be different because on one hand, in Micronesia, you have to struggle. It almost seems like your philosophy of teaching has to be about providing information, whereas the real truth about education is to bring out from within students the information that they already have. So the teaching style is, it's going to be different because the internet is at American kids' disposal. They know more about what's happening in the world than probably kids from the outer islands who have no exposure to Google or to the internet and all of those different things. So, my philosophy of teaching has changed considerably. I think when I started out teaching at Xavier, I thought my philosophy of education was to to give information because kids didn't have it. That's what I thought. It was only kind of in reflecting more on it and understanding what the word education means. I mean, if you look at the root word for education, it's it's the Latin root word, and it means to bring forth from within, to bring forth. It's not to give information, but to bring information out of students. So the teaching style, has to match the learning style. Now teachers talk about not so much teaching style, but about respecting the learning style of kids and of students, right? Because there are students who learn by listening. There are students who learn by observing. There are students who learn by touching and by doing. So you have to respect all those different learning styles and adjust your teaching style to those. So it really matters not, whether I'm teaching a teacher in Micronesia or in the U.S., but it's about understanding, what one's role is in that educational process, and how to bring forth information from the students and to really help them, and not help them, but to guide them, to challenge them to be better, human beings and better chukis and better bonbans and all of those different things. And if we can succeed as teachers to do that, then we're not just giving information, although that's needed too, but we're helping formulate better human beings to become more of themselves. So that's kind of my educational rambling.
Okay, the next question, it's a little personal.
That's fine.
And this question is, what made you quit the Jesuit community and your studies to become a priest?
Sure. And that's not that personal. It's really not a personal question, and I appreciate you asking it, because it's probably one of the most misunderstood part of my own journey as a human being by people. If people had the opportunity to ask me that question, I will always tell them the same thing, and it's this. I did not quit the Jesuit lifestyle. I actually answered my true calling, right? Quitting is about giving up on a journey, right? I haven't given up on my journey. My calling was and is to be a person who helps others. That's really what my true calling is. How that happens is the journey. When I graduated from college, I thought that my calling was to become a priest. And I was lucky enough to be accepted into the Jesuits. And the Jesuits, to become a priest as a Jesuit priest, takes over 10 years. And there's a reason for that, because they want to make sure that anyone who wants to be a Jesuit priest, it takes that long to be sure that that's truly your calling from God. And so for me, it took 10 years to get that. I knew the first 5 years of it was clear. It was after the 5 years, it was clear to me that this wasn't my calling. The last 5 years of it, of that journey, was really trying to find the courage to embrace my true calling, which was, I knew in my heart that it wasn't going to be a priest. So I didn't quit. I just had to embrace. I had to find the courage, and God gave me the courage to embrace my true calling as God was calling me to. And the priesthood was not it. I'm called to other things. There are people who are called to be, priests, and I respect those. I'm always going to be grateful for the Jesuits for that formation of my heart. So I never made. I was never a priest. I was just in that training and trying to find whether the priesthood was my true calling. And in the end, I'm very happy now being a married Catholic, and I'm very happy being an educator, and I'm very happy being a supporter of the Jesuit ministry. I work in a Jesuit institution because I still believe in that ministry, and I have great respect for how the Jesuits do it. So that's my journey.
So moving on to the upcoming questions. These questions are about government, religion, and Chuk's education. So,
Okay.
Starting with the question with religion, which of the two has more impact on people's behavior on the islands, the law or the Bible?
Wow. Well, they both should impact all of our behavior equally, but in different ways, right? The law puts condition on our actions to protect us from each other. It protects us from destroying ourselves and our society, right? That's what laws do. The Bible, on the other hand, inspires us, okay? It inspires us to love ourselves and to love others unconditionally, right? We need both. The law tells us what not to do. The Bible inspires us to do things, right? What the law limits in our behaviors, the Bible expands and inspires us to do more. It builds our capacity to love, while the law perhaps limits what we can do in order to protect the rights and barrier, and the rights of others, right? So I think both should impact all of our behaviors. I mean, they do. We have no choice. We need laws to protect ourselves as human beings, and we need the Bible or the Quran or the whatever the spiritual aspect of our or word is in our lives to inspire us to do more, right? Otherwise, the law will always tell us not to do things. Hopefully, in our lives, the Bible tells us to do more, to love more, to do more for others.
It's true. One cannot work without the other, yeah?
I believe it. I believe so. But I don't know.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to the government political side. Should we reduce the size of the FSM government?